During his first Sunday address, you heard Robert and I talking about it. Pope Leo called for peace in Ukraine, an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. What kind of impact do you think that will have?
Oh, I think it'll have a tremendous impact. I think he's a very, very credible spokesperson for peace. I don't think he has a political dog in the fight. And I think that his message of peace will resonate not just in Ukraine and in Gaza, but around the world with other conflicts. So I think he's delivering the right message.
President Trump is urging Ukraine to meet with Russia. He wrote a while ago, quote, "have the meeting now." This, of course, comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed restarting talks with Ukraine in Istanbul this Thursday. Ukrainian President Zelensky says, sure, but a ceasefire needs to happen first. How likely is it that Putin will agree to that?
Well, I think the pressure is beginning to ratchet up on Putin. The Europeans are now talking about significant sanctions, Nord Stream 2 interruptions again. But more importantly, I think the United States is quietly going to start furnishing long-range weapons to Ukraine if Putin appears to be walking away from peace talks or a resolution to this. And, you know, the message is going to be from President Trump to President Putin, like, look, if you want to take a long time to think about this while you're hitting Ukraine at the same time, Ukraine is going to hit you back and we're going to help them.
Let's talk about another conflict in the world. Top U.S. and Iranian officials wrapped up the fourth round of nuclear talks today. This is coming ahead of President Trump and Secretary Rubio's trip to the Middle East this week. The U.S., of course, pushing for Iran to dismantle its nuclear ties. Iran is saying the conversation wasn't great, but they're going to talk again. But how likely is it that Iran will listen?
Well, Iran is the master of rope-a-dope. I mean, they can extend talks indefinitely. And I think Trump has been very, very clear about the fact that if they're true to their word, which is they only want nuclear capability for civilian use, then they should be willing to dismantle all of the things that they've been asked to dismantle. If that's not the case, then I think they risk getting hit by both Israel and the United States. I think that's a very, very real threat. I don't think it's a negotiating tactic.
Ambassador, we have a list of conflicts to go through. Let's go to the high-stakes negotiations wrapping up between China and the U.S. That just happened a little while ago. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking about the progress made. Here's what he said.
But I can tell you that the talks were productive. And I would just conclude with saying it was done in the spirit of cooperation, shared interest, mutual respect, and we look forward to sharing the details with you tomorrow morning.
Are we any closer to de-escalating this growing trade war between the two largest economies in the world?
Well, I think the administration has moved in record time. I mean, these kinds of discussions normally take years, if not longer. And what's happened even in a matter of a couple of months has been earth-shaking in terms of the imposition of the 145% tariffs, followed by a fairly quick meeting, followed by another meeting. So I think he's got everyone's attention, particularly the Chinese, because this is literally shutting down their economy. And, you know, the non-tariff barriers that he's concerned about, the fentanyl that he's concerned about, all of the things that the Chinese, again, to use his words, have been tapping him along. I think that's going to come to a quick end. And I think Secretary Bessent is the perfect person to lead the charge on the trade talks.
We'll see. And you're right. Negotiations don't typically happen in 2 days. So we'll see how this plays out. Ambassador Gordon Sondland, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.